Oh, there's only 8 people in the class? It's a small one. Okay, recording. Dum 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 dum. So, how are you guys? Good? Cool. So, I've got a bit of an update for you on the schedule for the coming weeks, and then I'll do lecture on management tools today, which is our last lecture from the book or the slides, and then we'll have the exam on Thursday, and we've got guest speakers coming up after that. So, I thought I had updated the guest lectures on here, and I haven't. So, yeah, basically we're going to have guest lecture next. I believe we're going to have a guest lecture both days next week. And then we're also having a guest lecture on the 17th. The accounting panel is going to be on the 17th. We're going to have a banking guest lecture next Tuesday, a week from today, and a guest lecture on petroleum business on Thursday of next week. I believe that's the course of events there. But unfortunately I forgot to update that. I've got it updated on my laptop here and not on Blackboard, so I have to upload that later. I have also finished marking up all of your LinkedIn profiles. I just posted them to Google Drive yesterday, so I need to need to send you all a link to the folder where you can get them. I'm going to go over briefly right now some of the common things that I marked up. So if I go to Google Drive, so the comments I've made are kind of variations on a theme. I'll just pull up one at random here to show you guys what I mean. So what I did was I printed out a PDF document of your LinkedIn profiles, and there's little sticky notes where my notes are for you about what I want you to do. So in order to view those sticky notes, you actually have to download the document. And open it with the PDF reader. And things are moving slowly today, so we'll wait and wait and wait. Okay, finally. So if you move your cursor over the little yellow sticky note, you can see what my comments were. You can also click on the sticky note, and it will bring up the comments as well. So it's kind of, most of you, I made similar comments. So if you don't have a picture up here, I want you to put a picture. Now, if any of you are uncomfortable putting a picture of yourself, you can put, an image of some kind, a logo, a picture of a cartoon character, but you need to have some kind of image there on the upper left-hand corner of the profile. Many of you do not have a summary section, so I want everybody in here to write a summary section for your profile, and I want you to write that with two things in mind. One, what are you going to be in your career going forward? Are you an accounting professional? Are you a management professional? Are you a marketing professional? Are you a sales professional? I want you to state what kind of professional you are, and I want you to state that you have X number of years of experience. Now, some of you have more experience in your actual work history. If you don't have much of a work history, you do have 4 years of project-based experience because you've been in undergrad doing projects for the last 4 years. So all of you in here have at least 4 years of project-based experience, and I want you to put that in your summary section of your profile. So each of the profiles needs to have a summary section at the beginning. They need to have a picture. You'll notice here for Lily, she put her job that she's had at Snowbuster Shaved Ice, but she hasn't told me anything about the job. And a lot of you did the same thing. If you put a job down, you didn't tell me anything about what you did there. So I want you to say, so if she was customer service and inventory control, it would probably say something like this. Responsible for greeting customers and maintaining control over inventory, period. Deliverable accomplishments include the following, : and then you're going to put little bullet points underneath that. So greeted approximately 20 customers per day. Was responsible for managing inventory of approximately $50,000 of value. Was responsible for cash transactions of approximately $5,000 per day. I want you to put numbers with what you've done in your jobs. So it could be number of customers you've talked to, the dollar value of the inventory that you're responsible for. It could be the amount of sales revenues that came in when you were waiting tables or selling whatever it is that your job was. It could be number of reports written, or number of tax returns filed if you've worked as a tax intern. I want numbers associated with what you've done in your jobs. So if I said deliverable accomplishments in my comments for you, it means that I want you to write up those bullet points of X number of customers or X number of reports, X dollar value of inventory, etc. That's what's missing from the profile right now. And then finally, most of you do not have academic projects and courses attached to your degree. So I want you to go in and add projects. So you've got a project in this class, for example, of doing the case analysis paper. You've also got a project where you've been working on Globus for the last month and a half. So both of those are projects that you could list that are associated with your work at Cal State. And any homework assignments, projects, etc. you've done in your other classes, I also want you to list and attach as projects. And then list as many of your courses as you can. Now, when you're listing courses, let me close the PDF file here and open up actual LinkedIn. Some of you actually listed a lot of your courses in the text description of your degree. That's not where I want it. So let me show you briefly how I want you to list courses. I went over this once before in the lecture at the beginning of the semester, but I'll go over it again briefly now. LinkedIn. And of course, the machine is really slow today. Sorry about that. Finally. So, if you have not added any projects to your profile, there's going to be a button up here at the top that says project. All of the different things that you can add to your profile. One of those will say projects. Okay, so you're going to click on that, in order to be able to add a project to your academic history. And then once you add that project, once you click Add Project, it's going to look like this. You're going to have a name for the project. So if you're typing up a project for my class, it's going to be Case Analysis Paper, Business Strategy. And for occupation, you're going to choose Cal State Bakersfield as your education. So for me, my undergrad would be Stanford, so I select that. Case Analysis Paper, Business Strategy. You can just put the start date of the course as the date. So that would have been August of 2016. And don't worry about a project URL. And then in the description section, you can say something like, together with 4 teammates, wrote up a 20-plus page analysis of Macy's. Analysis elements included overall strategy, external analysis, internal analysis, financial analysis, etc., etc. Highlights, included identifying a 20% difference in Macy's current ratio compared to the industry average, period. Something to that effect I want you to write up and attach those as projects to your various courses that you've done over the course of your undergrad experience. And then for courses, you're going to add courses by the same way. There's going to be a button up at the top of the screen here that says courses. You're going to click that, and then I just want you to add all of the different courses that you've taken over the course of your time here at Cal State. So, for example, add course. I can add, senior seminar, management 4000, and again, just attach that to Cal State, and then click Save. And then do that for all of the... You don't have to do it for every single course you've taken, but I'd like you to have about 10 courses or so that are linked to your degree that are your favorite courses that you've taken over the course of your undergrad. Does that make sense to everybody? Questions about what I want you to do for your profiles? Okay. Those edits are due by the end of the semester. And like I said, yes, Stephanie?
Talking about the courses, so we just put as many as we can that we've taken? Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to see double digits, so I'd like to see at least 10 courses, but you can add them all if you want.
All only courses that pertain to like the specific focus, like what your focus is, like business marketing or...
I would include the courses that you're proud to say that you took. Does that make sense? So yes, the ones in your focus, but if I look at my undergrad, my focus was German history, but I took a class on organizational behavior that I thought was just really cool, and I'm proud that I took that class. I took a class on like Zen Buddhism, and it actually gave me a lot of perspective about life. So I would list that course too, just because I'm proud I took it. But the ones I'd list first are all the history courses, So yes, business courses first, but if there's other courses that you really thought were cool, list those too. Make sense? Other questions? Okay, so that's due, that's part of your participation grade, and it's due by the end of the semester. So I will send you guys all an email later tonight or tomorrow with a link. You just click on the link, find the document with your name on it, open it up in Adobe Acrobat, and you can read my comments in those little yellow sticky notes as to what you need to do. Okay? So that's that. Now, my final lecture of the semester, at least my final official lecture of the semester, on management analysis. So once again, we're in that lower right-hand corner of the strategy diagram now, and really everything that we've done for most of the semester has been about crafting a strategy, taking a look at the market out there, looking at attracting and pleasing customers, selecting and building the right resources for your company, making a profit by balancing those. And this lecture today is about executing this strategy. So it's about how to improve operations, how to manage people. It's about the actual where the rubber meets the road of business strategy and management. So I like to talk about 8 components of strategy execution. Your textbook actually has 10. It has expanded the organization section into 3 different areas. So you need to staff your organization with the right people. You need to build the right organizational capabilities in your organization, and you need to have an organizational structure that supports your strategy. And then in addition to that, you need to make good decisions about how to allocate resources. You need to institute policies and procedures that are going to facilitate the execution of your strategy. Best practices for continuous improvement are important to consider. Information systems, very important to consider. Rewards and incentives for your employees. The corporate culture, and then leadership by the executive team. All of these are the topics of today's lecture. So, So the key thing in part 1 here is finding the right people. It's critically important in any. The higher you get up in management, the more important it is to find the right people to do the work and then empower them to do the work. So increasingly, as you move up to higher and higher levels of management, you're not doing things, you're helping other people do things, and that becomes increasingly your job. So you want to find people that can make it happen. If possible, you want to hire from your existing management team, but sometimes you don't have the right skill set in your existing management team, so sometimes you need to bring in skilled outsiders. But the key here is to get the right people and then empower them to do their jobs to the best of their ability. There's a lot of different ways to staff the organization with the best people. I've got a couple of examples that I've put in red of my own experience. First and foremost, you want to hire the right people to begin with. So it's sometimes a lot harder than you might think to hire the right people. When I was running my lead generation service, Market Driver, I went through 16 different salespeople that I would interview and have them start, and they couldn't really do the job. I would interview another person, have them start, train them, they couldn't really do the job. It's very important to find the right person up front. Once you've done that, my experience at PricewaterhouseCoopers was really great when it comes to empowering and giving your staff that you have hired the skills and abilities to be successful. So investing in employee training, giving employees stretch assignments that really give them something meaty to do, something challenging to do. Rotating people through different jobs is actually really good for maintaining motivation and cross-training your staff. Trying to retain your high performers with promotions and pay increases. So it's important to remember that if people are doing well, you need to reward them for that and promote them and pay them higher accordingly. And then finally, coaching the rest of your staff to really improve their performance and their abilities. So organizationally, looking at it as a diagram rather than as bullet points, you've got hiring and you've got all the stuff that you do to support people after you hire them. That together contributes to strategy supportive resources and capabilities. And then structuring the organization with the right organizational structure is contributing to strategy supportive organizational structure. So it's important to find the right people, empower them, and then have them in the right organizational system to be able to succeed. Another important part of management and management analysis is how are you allocating the resources in the organization? So when I was with Bertelsmann in particular, the BMG, the music business, that media company there were a lot of things they weren't very good at, but one thing they were very, very good at was knowing when to buy and sell companies. They were masters at buying or taking over companies when they were relatively cheap, and then selling them when they could get a premium for the company. And it's very important to think about which proposals, which things you can do in your company do you want to fund, and which ones don't you want to fund, and then making sure that you're providing the proper amount of funding to the initiatives that are going to have the biggest impact on your strategy. Policies and procedures. This may sound like one of the more boring parts of organization and management, but it's actually the larger an organization gets, the more necessary it is to have policies and procedures. And I look at grading actually as a good example. What I just went through for your profiles, for example, I go in and I mark up things like need a picture. I mark up things like deliverable accomplishments. And I do that in a standardized way, because if I were to go in and individually write up, okay, change this word, add these words here, it's going to be different for each and every one of you. And it already took me a weekend and a half to go through all of your profiles. If I were to go through and tailor each one exactly the way I'd like to, it would take the entire semester just to do those markups. So at a certain point, you have to have standard procedures, standard policies to manage a large organization full of people that otherwise you'd like to tailor, but it's just not possible because there's too many people and it would take too much time. So continuous improvement. There's two different ways to go about continuous improvement. One is benchmarking. It's you want to take a look at what are the best practices that other organizations are doing, and then learn from those and implement them in your own organization. PricewaterhouseCoopers, when I was there, was a master at having the resources available to go out and look at the best ways that any organization you can imagine all over the world does things. there's a project that I worked on for them where we had to assess and reorganize the Washington, D.C. Department of Housing and Community Development. And, you know, some of us didn't know all that much about what are the best ways to run a Department of Housing and Community Development. So we went out and looked in databases that Pricewaterhouse had access to at what are the normal percentages of budget that are allocated towards various things in other cities, in other organizations like this. So one of the ways to make sure to continuously improve is to take a look at what other organizations are doing and see how you can learn from that and see how you can make yourself better by striving to do what your competitors are doing. And another way to do that is to just expose yourself to new ideas. So we all get busy and get kind of tunnel vision in our lives and our jobs. And it's very important to talk to colleagues, talk to companies, talk to industry, people that are not in your company. Talk to people who are in a different industry. Talk to people who are in academia. You know, you're here studying right now, but once you get out and you start working in your job, your life is going to be consumed by deadlines and to-dos, and I have to do this by this date and this by this date. And sometimes it's just nice to pick up the phone or send an email. Talk to me again. I have the luxury or the responsibility to be constantly thinking about lots of different things rather than one job or one project in particular. So it's very useful to keep in contact with academia after you're in your job, because it really helps you to come up with new ideas and find ways to continuously improve how you're doing things. Management systems. Good information and operating systems are absolutely essential. In particular, you need good systems for customer data, operations data, employee data, and supplier data. And two examples that I have for this from my own background. For customer data, Robert Half was, when I worked for Robert Half, which is the parent company of Account Temps and Office Team and things like that, we had an absolutely amazing customer database. I could go in and look at the notes of a conversation that somebody that worked at Robert Half 10 years before me had with somebody at a certain company that I was trying to make a sale at. They had an unbelievable customer management system, and it's critical to keep track of all of the various data about your customers, all the interactions you have with them. When I was at Bertelsmann, we did a large SAP implementation. SAP is an enterprise resource system, and that really combined operations data, employee data, and supplier data all into one system. And it's amazing how much that data is all linked to each other. So not only is it important to have systems for those functions, but also to make sure that they communicate properly with each other and are properly networked together. Financial data also, I forgot about that one. Rewards and incentives. Important to have both monetary and non-monetary rewards and incentives. And Pricewaterhouse, again, was a great experience for this. They paid us well, but they also did a great job of telling you did a good job, of giving you mentoring, of giving you coaching, of giving you chances to do continuing education. And I like to say that you're never going to get the best quality people if you don't pay premium dollar. However, you're never going to keep people, and you're never going to get them to be motivated if you don't do all the non-monetary things, like just praising people when they do a good job, giving them independence and autonomy to do their jobs, giving them interesting, stimulating jobs to do, not mindless work. Everything on the right-hand side here is what helps you keep people for the long term, and what helps you to get them to work to their maximum potential. But in order to get talented people to begin with, you need to pay top dollar. So that's kind of my 2 cents worth on rewards and incentives. Corporate culture is kind of about how we do things around here, or the chemistry of a work environment. And it's sometimes hard to put your finger on, but there's definitely different cultures in different organizations. When I was working on small entrepreneurial ventures, there was a really big feeling of us against the world. You know, there was a big feeling of camaraderie in the team, and everybody else there was us in our company, and there's everybody else in the world. And it was a very strong feeling of camaraderie there. At Price Waterhouse, it was really a feeling that they wanted you to succeed. You know, the whole organization, even though there's 200,000 people in it, cares about people, and they really made that clear in everything they did in the company. Bertelsmann was a culture of in a lot of ways, Bertelsmann was a culture of this is the way we did things before, therefore that's how we're going to do them again today. It was a very traditional kind of culture. Sony was absolutely full of politics. So there were always people that had their own agendas that they were trying to build little empires within the company. Very, very political atmosphere. And then Robert Half was a pretty cutthroat sales culture. So Robert Half was a "what have you done for me lately" culture. So you may have been the most amazing salesperson last month. That doesn't matter anymore. What have you done this month? It was a very, very relentless sales culture. So 5 very different kinds of cultures, all of which are valid, all of which have pluses and minuses to them. But understanding what the culture of your organization is and nurturing it is important. And then finally, leadership. Like I said at the beginning of this lecture, and I think this is the last slide. Yeah, that's the last slide. Like I said at the beginning of this lecture, the higher you get in being a manager and being a leader, the less you do things, and the more you help other people do things. So 3 things that are very important that any manager, any leader needs to do. First of all is stay on top of what's happening, and that's, kind of feel the vibe, walk around, talk with people. You need to talk frequently with your employees and understand what are the problems they're facing, what are the things that they're proud of accomplishing, what are they thinking about on a day-to-day basis. Secondly, you need to figure out what problems lie in the path to excellence. So increasingly, the higher up you get in management, the more your job is to solve problems. So you don't get to do the fun stuff anymore. You have to do the stuff that is problematic, that everybody's having a problem doing, that they can't figure out. Your job as a manager is to figure out what people can't figure out and fix it. So again, managing by walking around, feeling the vibe, making sure to talk with employees and understand what the problems are that they're facing so that you can fix them. And then finally, you want to inspire people. Your job is really increasingly to be a cheerleader rather than a doer, the higher up you get in management. So those are the main elements of my little management section of the lecture here. I'm going to go back briefly to the case paper again, to the template. And I believe there's one table in here that relates to the lecture that I just gave you today. So, summary section, we'll talk about that in coming weeks. There's not a formal lecture on that, but I'll talk to you guys about what I want in the summary section of this this document in the future. We've talked about the overall strategy stuff. We've talked about external analysis. We've talked about internal analysis. We've talked about customer analysis, management analysis. So we talked about corporate governance and corporate responsibility last week. The thing that pertains to today's lecture is this little table here for managerial execution. And what I want you to do for your case papers, again, is use ProQuest, use Google. If you want, use Edgar. This is or interview people at the company that, if you know people at the company that you can talk to. I want to know, how does the company recruit, retain, and empower staff? What kind of software and hardware systems do they use internally in their company? Not what do they sell to other companies, but what do they use internally in their company? How does the company compensate employees, and what sort of non-financial incentives do they offer? And then finally, what specific things are senior managers and leaders doing to inspire staff or solve operational problems? So you're going to go out, you're going to do a search in news articles, in Google, in various databases, find some examples of this, copy, paste, put a footnote at the bottom. Or if you have an opportunity to interview somebody at the company, you can interview someone from the company that you're doing a case study on and ask them to answer these questions, and then just cite the fact that you interviewed that person as your source. Is that clear to everybody? Cool. Well, it's 1:52, but I am done for today. So if there's no questions, let's call it a day, and I will see you guys on Thursday for the second exam.
For the segment, if I got it,
Yep.
and some of the stuff aren't on the temple, can I take that out, or do you want the whole copy?
I want you to try to fill out everything that I did. So
Okay.
if you can't find the information,
Well, what if there's more information on the actual income sheet than you want? Do you want that on there, or can we take that out?
yeah, you can, no, just put the stuff that I included.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.